Well, the thing about it is that, for me, this movie was a reaction to, I find that there are so many people that take what I do far more seriously than I do, or I am able to. In other words, the people who analyze films and actors and stuff, and they would ask me questions about, why would you do a serious film? Would you want to be Olivier? And I'd be, everybody relax. They gave me plane tickets, they flew me there, I did it, it was fine. So this was a chance for me to make fun of being an actor who wants to be taken seriously and make fun of an actor's process and all of that. And with Jimmy, it was a natural because for him, he's the world's most intense man as far as everybody's concerned. And so it was a chance for him to play a guy who's so intense he would like run someone over to go to a date.
You wondered, were we just going to be Michael with Parkinson's?
Right.
Yes. And what is the answer?
No, I think I'm on other stuff too.
Yeah.
I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I'm a activist. I'm a writer. and I'm just a student of the world. I mean, I'm just out there. This is one fact of my life, but it's not the totality of my life. It doesn't define me. Mm-hmm. And I'm blessed. You just got to look at what you have. Yeah. And be grateful for what you have, and if you can do that, then you get on to the business of life, and life is the best deal going.
I like that you call the book Always Looking Up, and why you did that, because
It's a bit of a short joke.
It's a short joke. Yeah.
I don't know if you can say this, but my world growing up was mostly asses and elbows. And in the same way, too, the second part, the Adventures of an Incurable Optimist, is also a pun on being incurable.
Incurable.
I remember when I first was diagnosed, and the next day I got into bed. I said, oh, I get into bed, I'm sick. And then after about 2 hours, I was like, well, this is stupid. I'm no different than I was yesterday.
More time, money, energy, and resources are spent on alleviating the symptoms of Parkinson's than on prevention. The benefits of using levodopa and similar mainstream drugs for treating the symptoms of Parkinson's disease will stop working within 5 to 7 years and create permanent side effects. Researchers should focus on prevention of Parkinson's disease and not on alleviating symptoms. Newer research claims that alternative treatment is not necessarily safer and may or may not replace dopamine for longer. Many researchers have been seeking out new ways to treat an old disease with just as many side effects, albeit they are different, as will be discussed. I will review some of the known contributing causal factors, current levodopa treatment protocols, and efficacy issues when the medication stops working. Too much emphasis is placed on symptoms of diseases, and not enough weight is placed on prevention. While no one wishes to watch a family member, friend, or neighbor suffer in silence with this or any other disease, the eventuality of this disease is that the medications prescribed stop working as suggested in peer-reviewed journals. Worse yet is that when the physician increases the amounts of the drugs, the side effects reach a point where they become unbearable for the patient. Eventually, no amount of medication works, and the physician begins to suggest that there are other treatments, albeit they involve invasive surgeries, promising gene therapies, and other therapies, all of which have their own side effects. There are many ways to explain a disease that is called idiopathic, which means it's of unknown origin. Is it really true that it is unknown? Parkinson's falls into the category of idiopathic only until one reads the scores of research journals, books, and internet sites that are publishing information. At some point, the information connects toxic chemicals and toxic metals with Parkinson's. From that standpoint, there is far too much consistency to be coincidental. There is a collective answer, one that is definitively points to the geographic explanations in the direction of toxic chemicals, including pesticides and toxic metals, such as aluminum and excess amounts of iron. It is more equitable to implement preventative measures in farming techniques. No money is necessary to fund more research in this area. What needs to happen is the putting into action the knowledge already known about safe farming. It is the toxic chemicals that are sprayed into and onto the food which contribute or cause disease, and many people are being harmed in the process. It should be of greater concern that commercial farming should be more about having safer foods to eat and less about the financial quota being the primary concern. I had a few questions based on this geographic prevalence. Why is Parkinson's disease not widespread in a few continents and yet is so prevalent in the majority? And why is so much money being spent on merely alleviating symptoms which eventually become worse instead of preventing them in the first place? The medications given to offset the symptoms are associated with hypokinesia. That's a decreased or abnormally diminished motor function or activity. Another factor is that as a person ages, the kidneys do not process out all of the chemicals the body intakes, regardless of their origin: medications, toxic chemicals, and metals, which may cause dyskinesia. And that is a movement disorder that manifests distortion in performing voluntary movements. You saw a little bit of that in the video with Michael J. Fox. In essence, the cure is worse than the disease, based on the element that the stronger the drugs, the greater the side effects. Consider the combined effect of medications, accumulation of metals, and the toxins in the body, creating a reactive effect on the cells of the brain and the diminished effect of medications over time. If the drugs were continuously working, that might be plausible. According to the literature, it leaves the person in worse condition than before that person began therapy. It just does not sound reasonable, at least not to me. While I feel that it is more important to focus on preventions than symptoms, I found it interesting to read the research for this project regarding stem cell and genetically engineered transplantation. I was not aware of the process of taking cells from the patient's own gene supply and training the cells in the laboratory to become cells that will mimic or replace dopamine cells, and then placing them back into the body of the patient. I learned that the body is less apt to reject cells taken from the patient's own body and has substituted the need to use fetal tissue and cells of unborn babies, which is very controversial, not to mention costly. While working on this project, I was able to address some of the direct correlations of toxic chemicals and metals and the ways that they have contributed to the causality of Parkinson's disease. Due to this information, levodopa has been prescribed for many years to offset the diminished dopamine levels, much to the detriment of the person taking the medications in this form of intervention. Through the concentrated efforts of many researchers, the symptoms of Parkinson's and other neurodegenerative diseases may be alleviated in the coming decades. Complementary treatments such as chelation and vibration therapy may reduce the symptoms. Motor dysfunctions may become managed without the on-off fluctuations, which are now recognized as inevitable. Studies now being conducted which employ stem cell and gene therapies may lead to a more empathic way to treat the symptoms.
The stem cell debate is filled with controversy, questions, and confusion about science, cures, and how we should treat human life at every stage.
While we prolong the stem cell debate, millions continue to suffer.
And stem cell research offers hope of a cure.
The embryonic stem cell fervor, I guess is the word I'm looking for, has blinded people to what else is available.
And as an individual with a disability, I don't want precious resources that could be dedicated to adult stem cell research to be diverted into very iffy and not very promising embryonic stem cell research.
How the people resolve the stem cell debate will impact countless lives. Not only patients seeking cures, but young human beings some want to destroy, searching for those cures. It's time to learn the facts. The science of stem cells, finding cures, and protecting life. We begin in the laboratory with a look under the microscope. These are stem cells. They may not look like much, but stem cells are remarkable building blocks of the body, with an ability to repair or even replace damaged tissues and cells. There's a virtually limitless supply of what's known as mature or adult stem cells. They're found throughout the body, for example, in bone marrow, fat tissue, even umbilical cord blood. Some of America's leading researchers, like Dr. David Hess, are intensely interested in adult stem cells.
Adult stem cells are used right now to treat many cancers and leukemias very successfully. There's no question about that.
In fact, there is no question adult stem cells currently help people suffering from dozens of diseases and conditions. While there are many reasons to be encouraged about stem cell success, it's important to know all the facts.
There is some hope with stem cells. There's also a lot of hype with stem cells.
That hype is typically connected to another kind of stem cell called embryonic stem cells. They're harvested from live human embryos, which are destroyed in the process. Embryos can also be created in the lab using in vitro fertilization or IVF. One IVF procedure requires a technician to use a needle to inject sperm into a human egg. The new embryo is implanted into a woman, where it continues to grow until birth. Thousands of extra human embryos are created by the IVF industry, then frozen and stored each year. Some people think we should conduct experiments with them. Certain scientists claim embryonic stem cells offer the best hope and promise for finding cures. But there are real scientific problems with embryonic stem cell research that no one seems able to solve. In fact, not one successful cure or treatment has resulted from embryonic stem cell research. And scientists now say cures may not emerge for decades, if ever. Embryonic stem cells are unstable and tend to form uncontrollable tumors if transplanted into the body. Experiments show our body's own immune system may reject these cells if they are used to replace diseased or injured cells. To solve